Before there were maps, there were two worlds. The world you know, and the shining realm of Kaf, hidden just beyond it. A kingdom of fairies and giants and magic. On the night he was born, an emperor 1,000 miles away woke from a dream. A black crow that stole his crown, and a bright hawk that flew out of the west to win it back. And the wise men said, "That hawk is a child, and he will shake the thrones of the world." That same night, the fairies of Kaf carried the sleeping baby across the sky. They blessed him, and they touched his eyes, so that nothing hidden could ever hide from him again. His name was Hamza. He would become the bravest champion the world had ever seen. Strong as a lion, a warrior against 100 armies, a prince who lost his heart to a princess, and at his side, the cleverest trickster who ever lived. Amar, a thief of 1,000 disguises, and the truest friend a hero ever had. Together, they crossed burning deserts and enchanted mountains. They faced sorcerers and giants and dragons and the demon armies of Kaf. They saw wonders no eye had ever seen. Thrones that flew, cities of gold, gardens that bloomed in the dark, courage, magic, love, and laughter. One of the greatest stories ever told, carried for 1,000 years. And now, it is yours. This is the Dastan of Amir Hamza. Here is the law that Kaf forgot, children. An oath is a knot tied in God's own rope. Break it, and it is not the rope that frays. Watch now what a single broken promise cost a kingdom, and what walked out of its deepest dungeon at the last on 4 rose-coloured legs. You remember that Asman Pari, queen of the fairies, had sworn before the very saints of heaven to carry Amir Hamza home to the world of men. And now he stood before her throne in the Garden of Iram, formal and terrible, and held her to that oath. And her answer was the same it had always been. "1 more year," she said, "only 1 more." So he went over her head to her father, the fairy king Shapal, and the king ordered an escort of 4 devs to bear the Amir home. But Asman Pari, her daughter Quraisha's hand held tight in her own, watched him choose the litter over them both, and reached out, unseen, and corrupted the escort in mid-flight. But mark this, children. Hamza had learned the grammar of Kaf by now. High above the clouds he heard the devs whispering their treachery, and he ordered them back to the throne and commanded them to swear their road by Solomon himself. And they could not. They could not say the name. And there, in open court, the queen's deceit stood stripped naked before her father's eyes. The king's fury at his daughter crashed against his terror of losing her, and the realm chose the coward's peace. None in all of Kaf might carry the Amir home. So Hamza, done at last with thrones, walked alone into the wilderness, his wolfskin cloak about him and the dimming bread loaf of the saint in his hand. And at the gate he turned. "Keep your escorts, King of Kings," he said. "God's wilderness keeps its oaths better than the palaces of Kaf." The wilderness road brought him to a green city and to its lord, Sab's Kaaba, the elder brother of King Shapal himself, and to a face he knew, Raihan Pari, whom he had once freed from an enchantment's prison. And Sab's Kaaba made him Kaf's oldest offer, and made it honestly. "Wed my daughter," he said, "and my house will bear you to the world of men, proclamation or no." And Hamza, weighing that offer against 12 long years away from his own Mihr Nigar, accepted. A small wedding, and a kind one. 2 people who did not love each other, both knowing exactly what it was. "To the road home, husband," said the bride, dry as dust. Asman Pari's answer came at dawn in her robes of red. Her army fell on that green city like a sky coming down, and by noon the city was smoke. Her own uncle and her own cousin she bound before her throne. 1,000 lashes a day, and the days did not stop. And then she cast Asman Pari down into the dungeon of Solomon, where others who had helped the Amir already lay rotting in the dark. Shapal came too late, and fell weeping at his own brother's feet, and Sab's Kaaba, flogged and robbed of his city, limped to the gate of the Garden of Iram, and cursed the house of Shapal before God. The curse took the shape that cruelty always breeds. A demon, called Rad the Deceitful, raised to honour no oath at all, heard that Kaf's own Devslayer had walked out on its throne. So he flew upon the Garden of Iram in Solomon's own stolen net, and seized everything, the king, the court, the queen, the child, everyone, save the old vizier alone. In a single night, the realm that had jailed every soul who helped Hamza lay itself in chains, and the old vizier's divining dice found the Amir at the foot of a mountain, and the very man whose clever arguments had built that first false wedding fell down at the feet of the man his cleverness had caged. And Hamza's answer was hard as the mountain behind him. "Your oaths were false, Kavaja," he said, "everyone. Why should my sword be truer than your word?" And then he went anyway. That, children, is why the tale is his, and no other man's. He heard 3 words: Croatia is taken, and he was already walking. The child, not the kingdom. The child. The demon's fortress fell, and the demon's head with it, and the royal house of Kaf was set free by the very man it had proclaimed against, and no one could meet his eyes. Shapal could not, and Asman Pari, for the first time in all that season, had nothing to say. Hamza asked one wage, and only one. Open the dungeon, and even now, the court began to hedge. So he turned his back on them and walked away. Then came the long wandering and the wonders of it. He freed a strange people of the cow-shaped feet from a demon's siege with a single war cry. But here the coldest thing in all this telling. For the crime of helping him, that cow-footed city was destroyed, and the hand that destroyed it was Quraisha's, sent by her own mother. Hamza woke to ashes, and learned his own child was now the enforcer of the proclamation against him. She was not her mother. She was her mother's weapon, and she knew it. On the 40th morning the bread and the flask of the saint were gone. Empty cloth, empty flask. And Hamza laughed, the first time in all this sorrow, for that was the promised sign. When these vanish, the road turns home. That road ran, of course, straight through the belly of the beast, the palace of Solomon's wonders, 39 chambers of dreaming enchantment. On the 40th day, the 40th door locked. A fairy guard refused him the key with the last of Kaf's authority. He took it from her hands like fruit from a bowl, and the dungeon of Solomon was opened. Thousands of chained devs and jinns and fairies lifted their heads into his pearl light, and one word ran down the dark like wind through wheat. The earthquake of Kaf. And he cut every last shackle in that place. Every prisoner the proclamation had made, freed by the one it was made against. And then, hoofbeats, where no horse had any right to be. Ashkar Devzad, the rose-coloured colt born of Dev and Fairy, swift as rumour and proud as a prince. He would suffer no rider but Hamza, and guard him like a soldier. A rose-coloured colt, unbroken, dappled as though someone had scattered coins across his hide, came cantering down the corridor, and greeted the champion of the age with a full-blooded kick that went clean through the armour, and sat the Amir down hard in the straw. Then the colt bolted into a black cell, where 2 voices the Amir knew were weeping. He was their son, born in the dark of the dungeon, a horse of a demon and a fairy by the strange working of God. And his name was Ashkar. Hamza got up, rubbing his ribs, and looked at that colt with enormous respect. 18 years, he said, and you are the first thing in all of Kaf to strike me honestly. And to the weeping parents, pardoned, all three. Him most of all. So the freed of the dungeon scattered home like a broken constellation, and Hamza turned at last toward the world of men, borne skyward upon a throne. And behind him the red storm rose one final time, Asman Pari, with everything she had left. But the road ahead was suddenly occupied. A small old woman in pilgrim white stood upon the empty air as though upon a doorstep. Asifa Basafa, the mother of the saint, older than the proclamation it protected, older than the throne. She did not fight. She spoke, and the storm could not pass her voice. Daughter of Chapal, she said, 18 years you have spent his life like your own coin. The account is closed. Go home. Raise your daughter, and learn what he never forgot, that love which locks its doors is only a dungeon with finer furniture. And the red robes were suddenly only cloth. Tell him, Asman Pari began, and nothing followed, for there was nothing that could follow. She turned back. The sky opened toward the south, and far below the world of men turned green. So the dungeon gave up its dead, and the curse collected its debt, and the queen who would not open her hand found it empty. He is coming home, children. Wipe your eyes. The next lamp I light is for a wedding 18 years overdue. But first, for there is always a but first, a 1,000 armed monster stands in the road, holding fast to a friend of ours. Sleep now. There is always one more.